Good morning all. Myself Neeta Kalra. I am working as a senior lecturer from SRS GPCG Ludhiana. So today my topic is detailed design in system analysis and design. So the contents we will cover that the introduction of detailed design, module specifications, file design, and the last but not the least database design. So first of all, what is detailed design? As we know very well, as we already covered the system development life cycle, the third phase of the system development life cycle, that is the system design. How to system design? The analysis, as you know, the analysis that converts the description of the recommended alternatives solution into logical and then into physical specifications. So what is the basically function of the analyst? वो क्या करता है कि that can converts the description of the recommended alternative solution into logical and then it can convert into the physical specification, that is the detailed design. So detailed design means that one must design all the aspects of the system from input and output, screens to reports, database and the computer processes. So the most important aspects of when we design the system means from input and output, screens to reports, databases and computer processes. So detailed design, that is the process of defining the lower level components, modules and interfaces. So basically the detailed design is the process of defining the components, modules and interfaces. That can be concerned to the components, modules and interfaces. So detailed design process that can focus on the detailed implementation of the system, and it can focus on how to approach to the creation of a new system. Again I am repeating this thing. This can focus on the detailed implementation of the system. Design phases means how to approach to the creation of a new system. So there is two types of design, that is first is logical design and physical design. As we know very well, the third phase of the system development life cycle, that is the how to design. So logical design that can be converted into finally into physical design. So logical design, these are the two types of design. One is logical design and second one is your physical design. So logical design that can describe the boundaries of the system. Logical design that can describe the boundaries of the system. It can describe input, output, database and data flows that can according to user requirements. Again I am repeating this thing. The logical design that can describe the boundaries of the systems, that can describe input, output, database and data flows that can according to user requirements, right? So it involves the data modeling techniques. So after the preparation of the logical design, it consists of all specifications on paper, right? The logical design that can involves in the data modeling techniques, and the after preparation of logical design, it can consist of all specifications on paper. So it can include like input output specification, storage specification, control specification, procedure specification, file specification. Again I am repeating, logical design that can include input output specification, that can include also storage specification, control specification, procedure specification and file specification. So physical design that can work after the logical design, right? produces the working system to specified by the logical design. It takes the logical design as a blueprint and produce the program specification. Strictly I am saying this thing, that it takes the logical design as a blueprint and produces the program specification. It also includes user interface design. So physical design, it produces the working system to specified by, that can be specified by the logical design. It can take, means logical design that can take as a blueprint and produces the program specification, and it can include the user interface design. So it can also include physical design that can also includes specific input output media like your blueprints, design database, specific backup procedure. So physical design that can include, that can work after the logical design, and it can include specific input output media. Input output media is like your blueprints, design database, specify backup procedure. So this is the basically system designing process, means logical design that can convert it into the physical design. This phase is a little bit ये फेस जो है एज कंपेरेटिव बाकी फेसेस से थोड़ा मुश्किल है. सो इस दैट कैन बी बिकॉज ये फिजिकली डिज़ाइन किया जाता है. सो लॉजिकल डिज़ाइन दैट कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू द फिजिकल डिज़ाइन. So there is some design objectives like practicality, means practicality, the system must be operated by the people. The practicality means this is the main design objectives. The system must be operated by people. Correctness means the design should be correct as per requirements. Means the design that should be correct as per requirements. So the completeness means design should have all components like data structure, like modules, like database. Modules, that is the subcomponents, right? The design that should have all components like data structures, modules and database. Efficiency, that is also the very important objective of the design, that involves the accuracy, that can involve the timelines of the system output, right? Again I am repeating, efficiency that can involve the accuracy, that can involve the timelines of the system output. So next is the cost, that is also very important objective. It is desirable to aim for system with a minimum cost but not at the cost of requirement. मीन्स हम क्या चाहते हैं कि अगर कोई सिस्टम हम क्रिएट करते हैं तो हमारी मिनिमम कॉस्ट लगे और उसका प्रॉफिट हमें मैक्सिमम हो. सो कॉस्ट दैट इज डिजायरेबल टू एम ऑफ फॉर सिस्टम विद ए मिनिमम कॉस्ट बट नॉट एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ रिक्वायरमेंट. The flexibility, as you know very well, the flexibility is the system that should be modifiable, that can be depending upon the changing needs of the user, right? Flexibility means the system should be modifiable, that can depending upon changing needs of the user. So very important aspect of the objective of the design, that is the security. That is very important factor in the design. When we physically design the system, it can cover the area of hardware reliability, physical security of the data, right? Security, that is very important in design. It covers the area of hardware, reliability, physical security of data. So next is the detailed design. We will cover the module specification. Module specification होता क्या है? So module specification is, as you know this thing, modularization is the decomposition of a system into subcomponents or into a small units. Again I am speaking. That is the decomposition of a system into subcomponents, or you can say into a small units. right? It makes a process of debugging, it makes a process of testing, integration of the system easy, right? Modularization, that is the decomposition of a system that can be divided into subcomponents, or you can say that can be divided into small units. It makes a process of debugging, how to remove the errors, testing, then integration of the system, that makes the easy, right? So a module is a logically separable part of program. That is basically the coding, logically separable part of a program. It produces well structured modular system, right? It produces well structured modular system. It is a collection of instructions and data structure. Module specification is a logically separable part of a program. It produces well structured modular system. It is a collection of instructions and data structure. So it should be such that it can be separately compiled and stored. मॉड्यूल्स इस ढंग से होने चाहिए ताकि आप सेपरेटली उसको कंपाइल भी कर सको एंड सेपरेटली उसको स्टोर भी कर सको, right? Modules should be such that it can be used other modules, right? Again I am repeating this thing, modules that should be such that it can be separately compiled and stored, and it can be used other modules. So the first step before the detailed design, or you can say that before the coding for a module that can be developed, is that the specification of a module should be given very accurately, right? Again I am repeating this thing, means सिस्टम को डिज़ाइन करने से पहले या कोडिंग करने से पहले a module that can be developed in is that the specification of a module that should be given very accurately. So next is the methods of the module specifications. So there is two methods basically that can be used for the module specifications. First is informal methods and the formal methods. There is two methods of module specification. One is informal methods and another one is formal methods. So your informal methods of specification that can be lead to problem during coding time, especially when programmer and designer are two different persons. Again I am repeating, informal methods of specification can lead to problem during coding time, especially when programmer and a designer are two different persons. In this method, the module is not precisely and accurately specified, right? Because this is the informal method. There are two persons involved in, for the logical designing, that is, one is the programmer and second one is the designer. So in this method the module is not precisely and accurately specified, right? The next is your formal methods. So formal method which is precisely specified, the internal logic for the module that will implement the given specification can be decided, right? That is a formal method which is precisely specified. The internal logic for the module that will implement the given specification can be decided. So there is some important points that can be involved for the specifications. So the first is the interface of the module, like all data items, their types, the purpose, functions in modules, and whether they are for input or output, right? The most important there is some points for this specification. Means the interface of the module, like all data items, their types, purpose, functions in modules, and whether they are for input or output. The next point is the abstract behavior of module, means what the modules does, right? The abstract behavior of module means what the modules does, its functioning or its input or output behavior. That can depend upon the functioning of the system, functioning of the modules, or its input or its the output behavior, right? So the effect of this module on another module of system. This is very important because it will tell that one changes of delete this module, how other modules behave, right? Again I am repeating, that is very important because it will tell that one changes of delete this module, how other modules behave. So module that can be represented as a square, right? This is a basically function. So in functional decomposition approach software is partitioned into independent modules so that each module is small enough to be manageable, right? That can be, we are saying about the functional decomposition approach software, right? इसमें क्या होता है कि सॉफ्टवेयर इज पार्टीशनड इनटू इंडिपेंडेंट मॉड्यूल्स सो दैट ईच मॉड्यूल इज स्मॉल enough to be manageable, right? So there is some criteria to evaluate the program modules. So there is two important criteria, that is module coupling and second one is module cohesion, right? Module coupling and module cohesion, these are the two criteria that can evaluate a program module. So module coupling, that refers to the number of connections between calling and called modules. Module coupling is that can refers to the number of connections between calling and called modules. So module cohesion, that refers to the relationship among elements within a module, right? It can refers to the relationship among the elements within a module. So module coupling में क्या था, that can connection, that can refers to the number of connections between calling and called modules, right? And the module cohesion, that refers to the relationship among elements within a module. These are the most important criteria to evaluate the specifications, right? So next is the file design. So file design, as we know all very well, that a file that may be defined as a collection of data items that can be organized into record in a well-defined manner such that data or records can be taken out easily when required, right? As we know very well, the file that is a collection of data items that can be organized into record in a well-defined manner such that a data or the records can be taken out easily when required. So a collection of similar records constitutes a file. So next is the types of files. So types of the files: master files, input files, transfer file, output file, library file, transaction files, temporary files, backup files, history files. Again I am repeating, these all types of the files is like your master files, input files, transfer files, output files, library files, transaction files, temporary files, backup files and history files, right. Now come to the details of this. First of all is the master file that contains essential system data, which is retained permanently. Strictly I am saying this thing, master files, it contains essentially system data which is retained permanently. There are two types of master file, one is reference master file and second one is dynamic master file. Again I am repeating about master file, that is the essential system data which is retained permanently. And there is two types, one is reference master file and second one is dynamic master file. So, reference master file is, that is a static record or records that can unlikely to change frequently, right. जो stable है जिसको हम change नहीं करते. For the example is a customer's name, address and the account number, right. Reference master file means that can consist of static record or records unlikely to change frequently. Strictly I am saying this thing, reference master file, that is the static record. The example of as shown, a customer's name, address and account number. So dynamic master file, as जैसे नाम से पता चल रहा है, it contains records which are changed frequently, right. Dynamic master file, it contains records which are changed frequently. The example is a seat reservation file that showing the name of customers who have reserved seats and the seats vacant. Is it clear? The example is very clear, a seat reservation file that showing the name of customers who have reserved seats and seats vacant. So this is the dynamic master file that consists that changed frequently, right. So next is the input file. So input file, these are those files that carry input data to the system, right. Input files are those files that carry input data to the system. So next is the transfer file. Transfer file, these files that included sorted and changes file, means they are saying about the formal and informal methods, right, static and dynamic, right. These files including sorted and changes file that carry data from one stage of the system to the next processing stage so that the master file can be updated. Is it clear? The transfer file that includes sorted and changes file that can carry data from one stage of the system to the next processing stage so that the master file can be updated. Clear? The output file, these files carry output from the computer system either to be printed, right, or can be input to the another system. Is it clear? Output file, these files that carry output from one computer system either to be printed like your blueprint, right, as a output, or can be input to the another system, right. Just for example, sales invoice to be sent to the customer. Clear? So the next is the library file. These are used for storing application programs or modules or programs or software that can be required by the computer system. Is it clear? So library files, these are used for storing application programs or modules or programs, or you can say the software that can be required by the computer system. So transaction file that can hold data that describes current transaction. Clear? That holds that data which describes the current transactions, and data in this file is used to update a master file. Is it clear? Transaction file that holds the data that describes current transactions, and this file can be used to update a master file. So next is the temporary file. Temporary file, as you know very well, it holds intermediate results and exists for a brief time. Is it clear? This is the temporary file that can hold intermediate results and exist for a brief time. So backup file, it is a copy of master or transaction file to recover data if any mishappening strikes. Is it clear? Backup file, that is the copy of master, or you can say the copy of transaction file to recover data if any mishappening can be occurred. Is it clear? So next is the history file. History file, it holds already processed transaction or non-current master records. It holds already processed transaction or non-current records, that is the history file. Clear? The types of history, the types of files, as we covered, the master file, input output files, transfer file, library files, transaction files, temporary files, backup file, and last but not the least, the history file that can process transaction or non-current master records. So next is the file structure. So already you know this thing, the file structure, you know very well the what is byte, right? Data item, record, file, database. तो फाइल स्ट्रक्चर में क्या हम कंसिडर करते हैं? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल द बाइट, देन डाटा आइटम्स, यू कैन से द एलिमेंट्स, रिकॉर्ड्स, फाइल, database. So bytes, you know very well, that is a set of 8 bits that represent a character. Is it clear? That is the very smallest addressable bit. So data items, or you can say the element, a set of characters which are used together to represent a specific data item. A set of characters which are used together to represent a specific data item. It is also called attribute of an object, right? It is also called attribute of an object. For example, if student is an object, name its data item. Clear? If student is an object, and name its data item. Clear? So it is sometimes called fields, right? A field is accurately spaced on tape, whereas data item is stored in the field. ठीक है, data item or element that can also be known as fields. A field is accurately spaced on tape, whereas data item is stored in the field. So elementary data type, data item, these data items cannot be further subdivided. Clear? Elementary data item, these data items that cannot be further subdivided. The best example is your roll number, right? So group data item, these data items can be further subdivided into elementary data items like your birthday. Is it clear? Elementary data items in which you can't be further subdivided like your roll number, and the group data items, these data items that can be further subdivided into elementary data items like your birth date. Is it clear? So record is a collection of related data items, and the example is in student record, name, courses are the fields. Is it clear? So records are logical record or the physical record. So, logical record, it maintains a logical relationship among all data items, right? And it is the way in which the user or programmer sees the data. Clear? Logical record is the relationship among all the data items, and it is the way in which the user or programmer sees the data.